Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're delving into a case whose name, even decades later, still brings this really chilling fascination.
Yeah, it really does.
We're talking about a figure known as much for, well, his manipulative charm as for his extreme brutality.
Yeah.
It's a story that didn't just grip a nation.
No, it fundamentally changed things. How we look at crime, forensics, even the media.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this.
What's fascinating here, I think, is how Bundy's story really became this watershed moment. It pushed boundaries for, law enforcement, media, forensic science, all responding to this one guy. So our deep dive today is on Theodore Robert Bundy, and we're not just skimming the surface here.
Yeah.
We've got official documents, biographies, firsthand accounts, trying to get at not just what happened, but why this case just left such a huge mark.
Absolutely. And our mission for you listening is exactly that, to pull out the key bits of knowledge, Bundy's methods, the huge challenges in catching him,
Immense challenges.
the frankly bizarre trials, and the surprising sort of dark legacy he left. Think of this as your shortcut to getting really well informed on one of history's most infamous serial killers.
And understanding the man himself it's critical. His contradictions really set the stage. Theodore Robert Bundy. Born November 24th, 1946. Executed January 24th, 1989, electric chair. His main crime span, we think, was 1974 to 78.
And all over the place, right? Washington, Oregon, Utah.
Colorado, Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, a wide range.
And what he was known for, it's just deeply unsettling. Good looks, intelligence, and this masterful ability to manipulate.
Yeah, those were his tools. Chillingly effective tools he used to lure victims, mostly young women.
And the numbers, believed to have killed at least 30 young women.
At least 30. Investigators have, long suspected it could be higher.
And he became one of the first real media serial killers, didn't he? Gained international attention.
Absolutely. Partly because of those 2 escapes he made.
Audacious.
And his really strange decision to represent himself in court. That fueled the media fire.
So the terror really ramps up in 74, Seattle.
That's where the pattern becomes clearer, yes.
Yeah.
Women disappearing from college campuses in Washington.
And there was a pipe, wasn't there? A specific victim profile.
There was. A hauntingly consistent one, actually. Typically young, white, slim, long, dark hair parted in the middle. It became a tragic signature.
And the way they disappeared. Broad daylight.
Often in broad daylight, which is terrifying in itself. Some were last seen helping a man, maybe with a cast or on crutches.
That whole deception,
Yeah.
using perceived vulnerability.
Exactly, a calculated ploy. And initially, law enforcement had a really tough time. Bodies weren't found right away.
So the connections weren't obvious.
Right. Police in different places, they struggled to link these disappearances. They seemed isolated at first.
It must have been a massive task, crossing state lines like that.
Monumental. It eventually brought in a lot of key figures, people like Robert Keppel in Washington State.
He wrote books about it later, right?
He did. And Jerry Thompson, a detective in Utah, crucial for linking cases. David Yoakum, the Utah prosecutor. Norman Chapman in Colorado.
And the judge in the Florida trial.
Judge Edward Cowart, yes.
Yeah.
Presided over that huge 1979 trial in Florida. Big media spectacle.
And wasn't this also when criminal profiling was starting to become a thing? With the FBI?
Yes, good point. They collaborated with FBI profiler Robert Ressler. This was really early days for that kind of work.
So Ressler was using these early profiling techniques, trying to get inside the killer's head.
Pretty much. Analyzing crime scenes to build a psychological picture. It was a new way to tackle cases when leads dried up. Kind of changed the game for complex investigations.
So Bundy confessed to 30 murders in the end.
He did, shortly before execution. But like we said, the suspicion has always been maybe more.
And the known victims, they really show the geographic spread, don't they? Linda Ann Healy in Seattle, February 74.
Then Donna Gail Manson, Olympia, March 74. Susan Rancourt, Ellensburg, April 74. Roberta Parks, Oregon State, May 74. Brenda Ball, Burien, Washington, June 74. Jorgen Hawkins, Seattle, also June 74.
And that awful day at Lake Sammamish, Washington, Janice Ott and Denise Nasland both disappeared July 14th, 1974.
A truly chilling event. Then later, Karen Campbell in Colorado, January 75, and Kimberly Leach, just 12 years old, in Lake City, Florida, February 78.
God, just 12. The range is horrifying.
It is. And across all these tragedies, one name stands out for a different reason. Carol Durange.
The survivor, Utah, November 74.
Yes. She was 18, and she escaped his attack. Her survival was absolutely pivotal.
How so? What did her account provide?
Well, her detailed description of Bundy, of his car, combined with other witnesses who'd seen a man named Ted, maybe faking an injury, it started to build a picture.
Okay, so the evidence starts mounting. Witness description.
Consistent descriptions, yeah. Women seeing Ted with a sling, asking for help.
Carol DeRonch's escape, and her description of him in the car.
Exactly. And that car, his distinctive VW Beetle.
The tan one.
That's the one. It was later found to contain hair and fibers, forensically linked to victims. Huge.
And then there was the bite mark. That sounds like something out of, well, a modern crime show.
It was groundbreaking stuff back then. He bit Lisa Levy, one of the Florida victims.
In the Chi Omega sorority house.
Yes, and forensic odontology, basically dental forensics, was used to match the bite mark from her body.
To Bundy's teeth.
Conclusively. It was a relatively new technique gaining traction, and in this case, it was incredibly powerful. A major piece of biometric evidence.
Wow. So you have descriptions, the car, fibers, the bite mark, but he still managed to escape twice.
Unbelievably, yes.
Yeah.
Once from a courthouse library in Aspen, Colorado.
Just jumped out a window.
Pretty much. And then later, a more elaborate escape from jail in Glenwood Springs, Colorado.
And the chilling part is, more people were killed after those escapes.
Horrifically, yes. Each time he got out, he killed again. It just showed his relentless compulsion. But the escapes also intensified the manhunt.
And finally, those confession tapes. Right before the end.
Yeah, just before his execution. Confessing to 30 murders. Finally laying out the scope, at least partly.
So all this evidence leads to the trials. Utah first.
Right. 1976, convicted in Utah for kidnapping Carol DeRonch, sentenced, escaped, then recaptured.
And then the big one in Florida, 79, the Chi Omega murders.
That was the main event. In media terms, Florida State University sorority house murders, a truly horrific crime scene.
And that's where he decided to act as his own lawyer.
He did, which turned the whole thing into, well, you said it earlier, a media circus.
I can only imagine cameras in the courtroom.
Oh, yeah. He played to them. Seemed almost nonchalant sometimes, despite facing the death penalty. It was surreal.
And he got the death sentence.
Yes, sentenced to death for the murders of Lisa Levy and Margaret Bowman at Chi Omega, and then later, another death sentence for the murder of Kimberly Leach, the 12-year-old.
So he was on death row for quite a while.
10 years. 10 years marked by appeals, interviews, trying to delay the inevitable, all while the victims' families waited.
Those final confessions,
right,
detailing 30 murders across 7 states. Did he give a reason?
He claimed an addiction to pornography drove him, that it warped his mind.
Your people buy that.
Most investigators, experts, they see it as another manipulation, an attempt to deflect responsibility, maybe garner sympathy, not a genuine explanation for that level of violence.
And the public horror wasn't just the crimes, but the contrast, right? This charming, intelligent guy.
Absolutely. The calm, articulate man in court versus the sheer brutality of what he did. It was deeply disturbing for people to reconcile.
And then the end finally came.
January 24th, 1989. Ted Bundy was executed by electric chair at Florida State Prison.
And the reaction outside?
It was intense. Crowds gathered, celebrated, chanting, "Burn, Bundy, burn." A really grim scene, but it showed the level of public outrage and maybe relief.
So, looking back, the Bundy case left a pretty complex legacy.
Definitely. It pushed forensic science forward, especially that bite mark analysis. It became a much more accepted tool after that.
And the multi-state problem he posed, that led to changes too.
Yeah, it highlighted the need for better communication between jurisdictions. It spurred the creation of, national missing person databases and improved cooperation. A direct response to the chaos Bundy caused, crossing state lines.
It must have also deepened our understanding, or maybe confusion, about things like psychopathy.
Oh, absolutely. Psychopathy, sociopathy, that profound lack of empathy, the manipulation hidden behind a normal, seeming, even charming facade.
Like the mask of sanity.
Exactly that phrase. Bundy became maybe the most famous example. It forced everyone, researchers, law enforcement, the public, to confront how dangerous that deception could be.
And maybe, sadly, it kicked off that whole celebrity serial killer thing in the media.
You could certainly argue it was a major catalyst. The intense media focus, the trial spectacle, it set a template, influencing true crime coverage for decades.
So when we go through all these sources, the documents, the accounts, the analysis, you really get a sense of the ripple effects.
You do. Insights into this incredibly dark figure, but also into how investigations had to evolve, how forensics advanced.
How society reacted.
Right.
So wrapping this up, what does it all mean for us now? Thinking about the whole story, the charm, the horror, the science, the media, what's the biggest takeaway?
That's a big question. Is it about the depth of human darkness? Or maybe our ability as a society to learn and adapt even from horrific events?
What questions does Bundy's case still raise for you? About justice, maybe? Or just human psychology? Something to think about.